I never thought I'd be afraid of headlights. Growing up in rural Montana, I was used to long drives on empty highways, the kind where you might not see another car for 30 minutes at a time. The isolation never bothered me. If anything, I found it peaceful. That all changed 3 months ago. I was driving back from Billings to my small hometown of Clearwater, about a 2-hour drive mostly on empty state highways. It was mid-October, and the sun had set early, leaving me with nothing but my headlights cutting through the darkness. I had made this drive dozens of times before, practically could have done it blindfolded. Around 9 p.m., I noticed headlights appear in my rearview mirror. Nothing unusual about that. The car was pretty far back, maybe half a mile. I didn't think anything of it until I realized it had been there for about 20 minutes, maintaining the exact same distance. I'm not usually paranoid, but something felt off. The highway had multiple turnoffs, yet this car stayed behind me through all of them. I decided to test it by slowing down from 70 to about 55, which is ridiculously slow for that stretch of road. The car behind me slowed down too. I sped back up to 75. The car matched my speed perfectly. At this point, my palms were getting sweaty on the steering wheel. I told myself I was being ridiculous, probably just someone heading to the same general area. But then I took a less common exit, one that led to a longer route home but through a slightly more populated area with a gas station where I could stop if needed. The car followed. My heart started racing. This wasn't a coincidence anymore. I grabbed my phone to call someone, anyone, but realized with horror that I had no service. Classic Montana dead zone. I was completely alone with whoever was following me. I decided to try one more test. There was a rest stop coming up in about 5 miles. If I could pull in there, maybe there would be other people or at least cell service. I flipped on my turn signal well in advance and watched the rearview mirror intently. The car behind me turned on its signal too. That was it. I was being followed. I cancelled my turn signal and decided to keep driving, pushing my speed up to 85. The car behind me accelerated too, but now it was getting closer. The headlights grew larger in my mirror until they were almost blinding. It was close enough now that I could make out the silhouette of a truck, a large pickup with what looked like a lift kit. I squinted, trying to see the driver, but the headlights were too bright, deliberately positioned to blind me. My exit was still 15 miles away. 15 miles of empty, dark highway with nowhere to turn, no houses, no businesses, nothing but pine trees and mountains. I was trapped. The truck suddenly flashed its high beams, and I nearly swerved off the road. Then it revved its engine loudly and came so close to my bumper I thought it would hit me. I pushed my old Honda Civic as fast as it would go, the engine protesting as the speedometer climbed past 90. For a few seconds, the truck fell back slightly, and I felt a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. The truck roared forward again, this time pulling up beside me in the left lane. This was the moment I'd been dreading, seeing who was following me. But when I glanced over, the driver's side window was tinted completely black. I couldn't see anything. The passenger window, however, was rolled down. Empty. No one in the passenger seat. The truck edged closer to my lane, forcing me toward the shoulder. I gripped the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, trying desperately to keep my car on the road. Just as I thought the truck was going to run me off completely, I saw a pair of headlights approaching from the opposite direction. The truck immediately jerked back into its lane and fell behind me again. As soon as the oncoming car passed, I expected the truck to resume its aggressive behavior, but something strange happened. It slowed down. Way down. Soon it was just a pair of distant headlights in my mirror again. I maintained my speed, not trusting this sudden retreat. 5 miles later, I nearly cried with relief when I saw the lights of a 24-hour gas station up ahead. I pulled in, my hands shaking so badly I could barely steer. As I turned into the lot, I watched the rearview mirror. The truck drove past slowly, and for the first time, I caught a glimpse of the driver as they passed under a street light. It was a woman. Middle-aged with long blonde hair. She was looking right at me and smiling. I ran into the store and told the attendant what happened. He called the police, who took my statement but didn't seem particularly concerned. Probably just someone having fun scaring you, the officer said dismissively. I stayed at that gas station for over an hour before getting back on the road, constantly checking my mirrors the entire way home. The truck never reappeared that night. But here's the thing, I've seen it 3 times since then. Always at night, always on that same stretch of highway. It follows for a while, then disappears. I've changed my route, changed my schedule, even borrowed different cars. Somehow, she always finds me. The police say they can't do anything without a license plate, which I've never been able to see. It's either covered or missing entirely. Last week, I found a note on my windshield outside my workplace. Just 4 words. I'm still watching you. I'm moving next month, leaving Montana entirely. I don't know who she is or why she chose me, but I do know one thing: I'll never drive alone at night again. It started with a simple D2 sign. You know those orange construction signs that redirect traffic? It was just like that, nothing suspicious or out of the ordinary. Highway 16 closed ahead, follow D2 with an arrow pointing to the upcoming exit. I was on my way back from a work conference in Dallas, heading home to Houston around 11 p.m. The drive should have taken about 4 hours total. I'd never seen construction on this particular stretch of highway before, but road work happens all the time in Texas, especially at night when there's less traffic. So I did what any normal person would do: I followed the D2. The exit ramp led to a smaller state highway that I wasn't familiar with. There weren't many other cars around, just the occasional semi-truck. The road was poorly lit, with fields and patches of forest on either side. I followed another D2 sign that directed me onto an even smaller county road. That's when I first noticed the pickup truck. It was about a quarter mile behind me, its headlights visible in my rearview mirror. Again, nothing unusual about that. But after about 20 minutes of following these increasingly remote D2 signs, I realized we were the only 2 vehicles on the road. Every turn I took, the truck took as well. I tried to rationalize it: maybe they were just following the same D2. But something felt wrong. I couldn't see anything about the driver or even tell what color the truck was in the darkness. All I could see were those headlights, always the same distance behind me. The D2 signs had led me so far from the highway that I no longer had any idea where I was. My cell phone showed no service bars, and my GPS kept losing signal. The road had narrowed to just 2 lanes with no shoulder, dense trees crowding in on both sides. I decided to test whether I was really being followed. At the next D2 sign pointing left, I deliberately went right instead. The truck followed. My heart started pounding. This wasn't a coincidence anymore. I pressed harder on the accelerator, pushing my car faster down the winding road. The truck sped up too, maintaining the same distance. I spotted a small gas station up ahead, one of those old-fashioned places with just 2 pumps. It was dark inside, clearly closed, but I pulled in anyway, hoping the truck would pass by. It didn't. It slowed down and pulled in behind me, blocking the exit. Panic surged through me. I was trapped in a closed gas station in the middle of nowhere with no cell service and no witnesses. I locked my doors and frantically tried to think of what to do next. The truck just sat there, engine running, headlights boring into my rearview mirror. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only a minute, the driver's door opened. A tall figure stepped out. In the dim lighting, I could only make out a silhouette, definitely male, wearing what looked like a baseball cap. He stood by his truck for a moment, then started walking toward my car. I had nowhere to go. The gas station was surrounded by open field on one side and dense forest on the other. If I tried to drive around the truck, I'd likely get stuck in the mud. The figure was about halfway to my car when he suddenly stopped and cocked his head to the side, as if listening to something. Then he quickly turned and looked back down the road we'd come from. I followed his gaze and saw headlights approaching, a semi-truck rumbling toward the gas station. The man immediately retreated to his truck, got in, and to my shock, sped away, tires screeching. The semi pulled into the station, and I nearly cried with relief. The driver, an older man with a gray beard, rolled down his window and asked if I was okay. I told him about the truck and the strange D2 I'd been following. He frowned. There's no construction on Highway 16. I just came from there. My blood ran cold. He let me follow him back to the main highway, which was indeed completely open with no construction in sight. When I finally got home, I called the police to report what happened. They told me I wasn't the first. Over the past 6 months, 3 other drivers had reported following fake D2 signs that led them into remote areas. In each case, they were followed by a dark pickup truck. 2 of those drivers made it back to the highway safely, like I did. The third never made it home. The police found their abandoned car 3 days later on a dirt road, keys still in the ignition. The driver hasn't been found. I check my rearview mirror constantly now, even in broad daylight. And whenever I see a construction sign, I keep driving until I can verify it with another driver or by checking online traffic reports. Because I know now, not all day tours lead back to the highway. I've picked up hitchhikers before. I know all the warnings and the horror stories, but I grew up in a small town in Oregon where helping travelers was just what you did. Besides, as a trucker, I've been on the receiving end of strangers' kindness more times than I can count. My rule was simple: no lone men, only women or couples, and only during daylight hours. For 15 years, that rule kept me safe. Until Ellie. It was early March, raining heavily on Interstate 5 just north of Roseburg. I was hauling furniture to Seattle, making good time despite the weather. Around 4 p.m., I spotted her, a small figure on the side of the road, soaked to the bone, thumb out. She looked young, maybe early 20s, with a purple backpack and no rain gear. Just standing there getting drenched. My first instinct was to keep driving. It was later than I usually picked people up, and the rain made visibility poor. But something about her, how small she looked against the massive pines, how the rain had plastered her blonde hair to her face, made me pull over. She ran to the truck, and I leaned over to open the passenger door. Up close, she looked even younger, with wide blue eyes and a smattering of freckles. She introduced herself as Ellie and thanked me profusely, explaining she was trying to get to Portland to visit her sick mother. My car broke down about 10 miles back, she said, shivering. No one would stop. I offered her a towel from my overnight bag and cranked up the heat. She was quiet for a while, just warming up, which was fine by me. I've never been much for small talk. After about an hour, though, she started asking questions. Normal things at first: how long I'd been driving trucks, if I had family, where I was from. But then the questions got more personal. Did I live alone? Did anyone know my exact route today? When was the last time I called someone? A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the rain. I gave vague answers and changed the subject, asking about her mother. Her response was oddly mechanical, like she was reciting something memorized. Pneumonia. They say she might not make it. I haven't seen her in 2 years because we had a fight, but now I need to make it right before it's too late. Something about the way she said it felt rehearsed. I nodded sympathetically but kept my eyes on the road, hyper-aware of her presence beside me. That's when I noticed she kept checking her phone but trying to hide it from me. Not texting or calling, just staring at the screen, then glancing up at the highway markers. Getting any reception? I asked casually. Cell service can be spotty out here. Oh, yeah. Just checking the time, she said, quickly putting the phone away. It was around 6 p.m. when I saw the SUV for the first time. A black Ford Explorer, hanging back about 5 car lengths behind us. Normally I wouldn't have noticed, but it was staying at exactly the same distance despite my varying speed due to the rain and hills. I watched it in my mirrors for 20 minutes. Every lane change I made, it matched. When I slowed down, it slowed. When I sped up, it maintained that exact 5-car distance. Ellie was checking her phone more frequently now, and I caught her glancing in the side mirror at the Explorer. Friend of yours? I asked, nodding toward the mirror. She froze for just a second, so briefly I might have imagined it, before laughing. What? No. I don't know anyone with a car, remember? Mine broke down. But her laugh was wrong. High and tight, not reaching her eyes. I decided to test my suspicion. At the next exit, I signaled and pulled off without warning. What are you doing? She asked, an edge to her voice I hadn't heard before. Need gas, I lied, pulling into a brightly lit station with security cameras clearly visible. Sure enough, the black Explorer exited too, but drove past the station and parked across the street. Actually, I said, I think this is where we part ways, Ellie. Her face changed completely. The vulnerable, grateful girl vanished, replaced by something hard and cold. You can't drop me here, she said flatly. We're still an hour from Portland. There are plenty of truckers who'll give you a ride, I replied, keeping my voice steady despite my racing heart. I've got to take a different route. No. She grabbed my arm, her fingers digging in with surprising strength. "You're taking me to Portland." I looked directly at her. "Your friends in the Explorer can take you." She didn't deny it. Instead, she smiled, a chilling expression that transformed her face into something predatory. "You should have just kept driving," she said quietly. "Made it easier for everyone." I reached for my door handle, planning to get out and call for help from the station attendant. But before I could open it, my phone rang, the actual phone built into my truck system, not my cell. It was my dispatcher. I answered, keeping my eyes on Ellie, who was now texting rapidly. "Joe? Joe, are you okay?" My dispatcher sounded concerned. "I got a weird call asking about your route and cargo. Some woman saying she was your daughter and needed to find you for a family emergency." I felt sick. "I don't have a daughter." "I know that. That's why I'm calling." "I didn't tell her anything, but she seemed to know you were heading to Seattle. I thought you should know." "Thanks, Diane," I said, watching as the Explorer across the street started its engine. "Actually, I think I need you to call the police to the Chevron station just off exit 148. Right now." Ellie's head snapped up. She tried to open her door, but I'd activated the child locks when I pulled in, an old habit from when my nieces and nephews used to ride with me. "Let me out," she hissed, pulling at the handle frantically. "The police are on their way," I told her. "Whatever you and your friends were planning, it's over." She laughed then, a sound that still haunts me. "You think this is over? They know what you look like now. They know your truck. There are more of us than you think." The Explorer peeled out of its spot and sped away just as police sirens became audible in the distance. Ellie was arrested for attempted kidnapping and conspiracy. The police told me later they found zip ties, duct tape, and a hunting knife in her backpack. They never caught the people in the Explorer. According to the detective who interviewed me, I was likely targeted as part of a cargo theft ring that sometimes uses hitchhikers to get information on valuable shipments. They choose victims carefully, solo drivers with predictable routes and valuable cargo. But something about the way Ellie looked at me in that police station made me think it wasn't just about the furniture I was hauling. There was a personal hatred there that I couldn't explain. I still drive the same routes. I have to, it's my livelihood. But I've installed additional locks, cameras, and a panic button in my truck. I vary my schedule and routes whenever possible. And I never, ever pick up hitchhikers anymore, no matter how harmless they look. Because sometimes the real predator is the one asking for help.